The Hourglass Meeting. Evan adjusted the dials of the worn brass time machine with trembling fingers. He had always thought he was ready for this moment, the moment he would meet himself. The lab flickered and blurred, and with a flash like a camera ball, he was gone. When the dizziness cleared, Evan stood in a smaller, messier version of his workshop. There were crumpled notebooks on the desk, blueprints pinned haphazardly to the walls, and a familiar scent of soldered metal in the air. A younger Evan, 5 years younger maybe, sat hunched over a prototype, grumbling under his breath. Evan cleared his throat. Younger Evan spun around, his eyes wide with alarm. "Who the hell are you?" Older Evan smiled tightly. "It's complicated." "Are you from the government?" Younger Evan asked, reaching for a wrench as if it could defend him. Older Evan held up his hands. No, I'm you, from the future." Younger Evan froze, staring. Then he laughed, harsh and nervous. "Right. And I'm Einstein reincarnated." To prove it, older Evan pulled back his sleeve, revealing a long scar on his wrist, one he hadn't gotten yet. Younger Evan's face drained of color. "I got this fixing the coil array next month," older Evan said. "You'll slip, just like you've been worrying you might." Younger Evan dropped the wrench. Silence pulsed between them. Older Evan took a slow breath. "I didn't come to warn you about disasters or paradoxes. I remember how lonely you feel, how you think you're insane for even trying to build this thing. You're not." Younger Evan's voice cracked. Did it work?" Older Evan smiled sadly. "Yes, and no." He walked over to the cluttered desk and picked up a prototype model, running his fingers over its surface like it was a memory. "You'll make it work. You'll travel farther than you thought possible. But every leap forward, it costs something. Friends, time, parts of yourself." Younger Evan stared at him. "Then why keep going?" Older Evan placed the model back down and looked into his own eyes. "Because once you see what's possible, you can't unsee it." A shudder passed through the room. The machine's auto-recall was pulling older Evan back. He stepped toward the younger version of himself and pressed a small journal into his hands. "Keep building," he said, "but don't forget why you started." The light grew blinding. With a final nod, older Evan vanished, leaving younger Evan standing alone, heart pounding, holding the future in his hands. Outside, the stars blinked coldly in the night sky, unaware of the meeting that had just changed everything. The silence felt suffocating as the weight of the moment crashed down on younger Evan. He stood there, his fingers trembling around the crumpled paper that now felt like the very essence of his destiny. His heart raced, a thunderous rhythm that echoed in the stillness, drowning out the sounds of the world around him. "What do I do now?" he whispered, as if the universe itself would answer. The future, a future he had never dared to imagine, was now within his grasp, but with it came an unbearable burden. Was he ready? Could he really make the right choice? Every second felt like an eternity, and the uncertainty clawed at him, gnawing away at his resolve. The paper burned in his hands, a symbol of everything he could lose. Every decision he made now could spiral into a never-ending cascade of consequences, rippling across time in ways he couldn't comprehend. The weight of it was suffocating. He could feel the pressure on his chest, the weight of not just his own life, but the lives of those who would follow in his wake. A sharp gust of wind swept through, sending a chill through his bones. The stars overhead seemed distant, mocking him with their cold indifference. They didn't know. They couldn't know. "No one knows," he muttered, gripping the paper tighter, his knuckles turning white. His breath came in shallow gasps as his mind spiraled, teetering between the fear of making the wrong choice and the terrifying possibility of making the right one. And then, through the darkness, came a voice that wasn't his own, but that of older Evan, hauntingly familiar, as though it had never truly left. "You have to decide, Evan. The world won't wait." The words lingered in the air, thick with meaning, heavy with urgency. Younger Evan felt a sharp pang in his chest. The future wasn't just something that would unfold before him. It was something he had to shape, something he had to create. His heart, trembling with uncertainty, now thudded with a fierce determination. He couldn't afford to waste time. He couldn't let fear be his master. He took a deep breath, his gaze shifting to the stars once more. They were still cold, still distant. But somewhere, buried beneath the fear, beneath the crushing weight of his decision, a flicker of hope ignited. "I'm ready," he whispered to no one in particular. The night swallowed his words, but in his chest the fire grew. Now it was his turn to choose. The paper still burned in Evan's hands, a searing reminder of what was at stake. He looked down at it, his mind racing through every possible outcome. There was no turning back. The weight of every choice, every moment that had led him here, hung over him like a storm cloud waiting to burst. But in that instant, something shifted inside him. The panic, the self-doubt, the crushing weight of responsibility, it all faded into the background, replaced by something else, something stronger, something he hadn't realized he had all along. Evan's fingers uncurled, slowly releasing the crumpled paper. It fell to the ground with a soft rustle, but he didn't look at it. His eyes, once clouded with uncertainty, were now focused, burning with clarity. He turned his gaze toward the horizon, toward the world that awaited him. The stars above, once indifferent, seemed to shine a little brighter now, as though they, too, recognized the shift in him. "I'm not alone in this," he whispered, the words rising from deep within his soul. He felt it, the connection to everything and everyone that had come before him, the generations of those who had walked this path and those who would follow. His decision was not just his own. It was a part of a larger, intricate tapestry that stretched across time. He knelt and retrieved the paper from the ground, smoothing it out, his fingers now steady. A deep breath filled his lungs as he looked at the future, at his future, and made his choice. Evan knew the road ahead would be treacherous, filled with unknowns and challenges that would test him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. But for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't alone. And with that realization, he stood tall, the weight of the moment no longer crushing him, but empowering him. With resolve in his heart and the future in his hands, Evan stepped forward into the unknown, ready to shape it with every ounce of courage he had left. The ground beneath Evan's feet trembled as the world around him began to shift. The stars above flickered violently, as though reacting to his decision. The air grew thick, charged with a strange electric energy that seemed to hum in his veins. He felt it, the weight of the universe pressing in on him. It was as though time itself was bending around him, forcing him into a decision he could no longer delay. Suddenly, the paper in his hands glowed with an ethereal light, its edges shimmering and flickering like a flame. Evan's breath caught in his throat as the text began to change, the words twisting and shifting in ways he couldn't understand. They weren't just his future anymore. They were everyone's future. "No," he gasped, his voice trembling. "What is this? What have I done?" The ground cracked open beneath him, and the world splintered into 1,000 jagged shards. Figures appeared from the void, shadowy, indistinct forms that flickered like ghosts. They circled him, their eyes filled with ancient knowledge and regret. "You think you can control fate?" one of the figures hissed, its voice like the sound of grinding stones. Evan stumbled backward, his heart pounding wildly. He wanted to scream, to flee, but his feet were rooted to the spot. The figures closed in, their presence suffocating. You can't undo what's been set in motion. Another figure spoke, its voice cold and unforgiving. You've broken the rules. Evan's mind raced. What rules? What did they mean? The air crackled, a surge of power rising up inside him. He realized with a shock that it was his power, the power he had been given when he made the choice, the power to shape reality, the power to reshape fate. No, he muttered again, shaking his head. I don't want this. I didn't mean to, but it was too late. The figures were closing in, their presence suffocating, the weight of their judgment unbearable. Evan's pulse surged as the paper in his hand ignited, flames licking at the edges, burning away the written future. He felt the truth, then. He hadn't just chosen his path. He had chosen for everyone. You can't take it back. The voices were growing louder, their demands pressing in on him from all sides. Evan closed his eyes, surrendering to the pressure. But in that instant, the ground cracked open beneath him with a deafening roar. The world split in two, a blinding light bursting forth from the cracks, washing over everything, erasing the figures, the voices, and the fear. He felt himself falling, tumbling into the abyss, the light pulling him forward. And then, just as quickly as it had come, the chaos ceased. Silence. Evan opened his eyes. He was suddenly awake. His body shot up from the bed. His hands trembled as they reached for his chest, as if to confirm he was still alive, heart pounding, breath ragged. The world around him was ordinary, quiet, still, bathed in the soft light of dawn. The room, the sheets, the faint hum of the city, everything felt too real to be a dream.